Now, some of you may have noticed that over the past like 10 to 12 months, maybe, I'm thinking like maybe 10 months, some of the people around you have been having to various degrees depression. And I've noticed it a lot more than normal, than usual. Okay. So as I was looking, I know that in the wintertime, there's something called seasonal depression. And some people go through that, every year, basically. But this year, I noticed that there was something that was a little bit more, I would say, unheard of, because I saw it not just in the winter, I saw it in the spring, in the summer, in the fall. And I coined the term for it. Now, somebody else might have thought of this before me. I just haven't seen anything on it, no literature or any videos on it. And some people could have thought of it because I think it's kind of obvious. But I call it pandemic depression. And because of the fact that this is the first pandemic that we've had since the Spanish flu, according to some, that was like 100 years ago. So we don't have a lot of like information on what happens to people in societies during a pandemic. We do have some like writing, some journal entries from the bubonic plague and some things like that. But I think that, in modern times, we don't have a lot of studies in this area, and we probably will after this pandemic is over. So I just wanted to talk to you guys about pandemic depression, what I think it is and what it looks like to me, and the ideas that I have to help people with it. A lot of people have been starting to feel better lately because it seems like the pandemic is slowly starting to come to an end. Vaccines, we talked about those before, are starting to go out all over the world. And some people are very uncomfortable and unhappy about that. And other people see it as a godsend. So everybody has to, of course, make their own decisions about that. But it does have the ability, if they work, to, stop or at least slow down immediately this pandemic. So I think that probably a number of things will change afterwards, but I still want to talk to you guys about it because I was told that more than likely this is not the last pandemic. Scientists are saying that this is pretty much inevitable with the evolution of humans and the planet and blah blah blah. So I'm going to do the introduction, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about pandemic depression, and some of you might even be experiencing it. And we'll talk about it. See if we can get you guys some helpful tips and ideas. Okay. All right. So I'm Queen Elset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Asking Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to somebody else who might like it too. And don't forget to drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And if you have time, please stick around to the end of the video because I have accumulated 2 of my favorite positive comments from other videos. And I'm going to read them and respond to them. If you would like to get a reading done, please email me. My email is underneath the video, along with my Patreon link, my Amazon wish list. Gifts are my love language. My PayPal, if you want to give a small donation to the channel or any donation to the channel. What else is there? My social media, in case you want to talk to me. And I think that's it. Oh, my Asking Aquarius merchandise is there too. So let me see here. Pandemic depression. All right, so let's talk about it, right? So what I think this is, or what my definition of this is any depression that is brought on by a pandemic. So this would be somebody who isn't normally depressed. They're normally fine. They're normally bouncing around doing their thing. And a pandemic happens and they find themselves depressed, either because they have to social distance or because they can't go places that they really enjoy going. Some of my friends are extreme social butterflies. So I was chilling during the pandemic. I was like, I'm going out once a week. That's it. And I'm getting food and coming right back home. But some of my friends are so used to going out all the time. They visit their family, they go to the restaurant, they go to the bar, they go to the mall. They're constantly out and about. So some of them had a really hard time with it personally because they had to stay in the house. They had to sit down. They couldn't go places. In some cases, some people, even relationships even broke up because of this, because it was like they were stuck in the house with their significant other, and there was all this tension from unresolved issues. And now that you can't go anywhere, there's nowhere to go, all you got to do is sit in the house with these unresolved issues. So a number of couples I know actually did break up because of that. So this whole thing about, social distancing was really hard for a lot of people. Likewise, some people lost their jobs. Some industries closed down totally. People that work in like the services, like a good friend of mine, he has a mystery theater. As soon as the pandemic happened, nobody was going. You couldn't. A lot of these places got shut down. So you couldn't go to theaters. You couldn't go to restaurants and sit down. You couldn't go to bars and sit. You couldn't go get your hair done. I remember certain people, their hair was awful at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was thinking to myself, thank God I went natural because I can do my own hair. But a lot of people, their hair looked a mess. Their nails, I thought my nails were going to be, I was going to take them off straight up. I was just going to cut them off and be done. But come to find out, I didn't notice at the time, my landlord does nails. So it was like, oh, and they were allowing us here. A lot of stuff here was still open, but it was just limited. Like the nail salons, the hair salons, they were open in Costa Rica, but they were limited. So in some places, they were totally closed. Gyms, some of the gyms, my gym is totally closed. It's been closed since the pandemic started, as you can tell by looking at me. It's been closed almost a year. So it's like a lot of people, they gained weight like I did. They were just like, sad about that. Some people were sad because they couldn't go certain places. Some people were sad because their appearance wasn't what they were used to their appearance being. So people got depressed for a number of different reasons. Losing jobs, then people getting sick that they knew from COVID, people passing over from COVID. Empaths I know were having a really hard time too, because even the empaths I know who weren't having a hard time in their personal lives, they were picking up on the sorrow of everyone else. And I dealt with this a lot during the pandemic. I dealt with dealing with other people's sorrow and trying to help them through it, help them, talking them through it and things like that, because that's my job. But it wasn't easy because I was just like, my heart went out to them. So many people had different things happening simultaneously that it was just huge pandemic depression for some people. Now, everybody didn't experience it, but a lot of people talked about it. And some of them had it the whole time. Some of it came and went. Some of them had it at the beginning and then they got used to it, later. It depends. Everybody is a little bit different, but that's what I'm calling pandemic depression. Now, the question then becomes, what can you do about pandemic depression if you or somebody suffers from it? The first thing you can do about pandemic depression, the pandemic depression is seasonal and situational, because most of these depressions, most of these pandemics are not going to be forever. A pandemic runs its course. If you look at the history of the other pandemics, the Spanish flu was the last one. That was about, I think they said 2 to 3 years of dealing with that particular bug around the globe. So it's not going to last forever. So the first thing is to, remind yourself that this is a temporary situation. It's not going to last forever. So it could be a very helpful thought to some of us. The next one says to seek professional help. During the pandemic, it's really difficult to go see a therapist. A lot of people I know who were in therapy had a really hard time because their therapist wasn't in the office. Now, some therapists took to Zoom, or they took to Skype or other online, type of mediums. I recommend that. I recommend finding someone who you can talk to online this way, or on the phone, because this way you don't have to risk getting the pandemic or getting exposed to whatever these viruses are or these germs are, and you can still get some professional help. So that's the first one. Seek some online professional help. And sometimes if you already have a therapist or you already know a therapist, some of them who didn't normally do online did do it during the pandemic. So you can call them and ask them. They may be able to accommodate you. The next one says reach out to people online. It's not going to be easy, obviously, to get out and go places, but you can do some little fun stuff online. You can talk to people on WhatsApp, or you can talk to people on Messenger. Zoom was really big. Zoom got a lot of work during this pandemic. Facebook Messenger, those kinds of mediums, you can use those. Reach out to people, your family, your friends, and talk to them online. At the beginning of the pandemic, my cousin would send out a mass Facebook message on Messenger and tag the whole family in it. So we were able to talk and laugh and joke. Even though we couldn't meet up for the family reunion or for Christmas this year, we could laugh and joke and talk in Facebook Messenger. So reach out to people like that. You might not be able to go to their house or sit with them or hang out with them, but that doesn't mean you can't talk to them. There's all kinds of methods to be able to talk to them online or on the phone or whatever the case is. The next one says join groups on Facebook. Facebook, and I don't know about other places, but I know for a fact WhatsApp and Facebook have groups. So if you don't have a big family or you don't have a lot of friends or you're feeling lonely during the pandemic, you can go to one of these Facebook groups. I talk in Facebook groups all the time. I go to the Aquarius groups. I go to the lesbian groups. I go to groups for people that like novelty pocketbooks, the Danielle Nicole pocketbooks that I get. I go to groups to talk about spirituality. I go to groups to talk about tarot. Whatever your interests are, there are groups where you can talk to people. And they post things and you can respond if you want to, or just read things, or whatever the case is. So if you're somebody who doesn't really have a lot of friends, that could be a way to, at least have some human interaction, and you might make some friends, because I have met friends in these groups from time to time. The next one says work on projects for business or art. Now, because you're in this pandemic and you really can't go nowhere, most of us have projects around the house that we want to do. Home repair projects, art projects. I have a picture I want to paint so bad. I have never gotten to it. I got a bowl over there that I want to paint. I want to paint it really pretty so I can put crystals in it. Those kind of little artistic home repair type projects are perfect to help with pandemic depression, because it gives you something to focus on and something to do. You might even do something for business, for example. Like if you really have an idea for a business that you want to start, a pandemic is a perfect time to work on your business plan. Anybody that started at the beginning of the pandemic is probably done with it by now and on to the next thing. So people, you could have started entire businesses in that amount of time. So you could work on something for business or for art or for home repairs or home beautification or something like that. So that's a good one. I was supposed to do that one, but I had so much work to do that I couldn't do it. The next one says play with your kids. Oh my God. Having time with your children, or whoever you live with, spend time with them. If it's kids, if it's your sister, if it's your mama, if it's your spouse, and not all your time either. Don't spend all your time with them. You definitely need alone time. Y'all in the house together all the time. But play with your kids, talk, have meals together, do things you normally don't have time for, or normally you're out or they're out or something's going on. A friend of mine was talking about how her son is into sports, and when the pandemic first happened, all his sports things were canceled. So she was at a loss as to what to do, with him during this time that he's usually not around. And I was like, do the things y'all don't have time for. Paint pictures. Our son's young. I was like, paint pictures, do some coloring, talk about stuff, have chocolates, watch things on TV, Just do things with them you normally don't have time for. I know when my daughter was little, there wasn't a lot of time for those kind of things, because most of the time what happened is you come home from work, you start their homework, you have dinner, you get their stuff ready for the next day, and by then it's time to go to bed. So if you can do some of the things that you don't have time to do, that would be great too for both of you. Because kids get depressed too. I've noticed that pandemic depression is not just adults. There have been children, there have been teenagers, middle school kids who've gotten really depressed too. There was one on the news tried to commit suicide because he was just so depressed with not being able to go out, not being able to do anything with his friends. The next one says read and listen to music. Okay, so most of us, again with time, a lot of us don't have time to read. I make time to read because I love it, But some people tell me they haven't had time to read a book since college. Literally, So this is a great time to read because you probably, for those of you that have time, because everybody, of course, like myself, didn't have time. But for those of you who have time, that's a great time. That's the books that you haven't got around to reading or the ones you didn't even get around to buying. This is a great time to read and listen to music as well. You might want to try new music, listen to things on YouTube or things like that. It's a great time for that, especially when you're bored. Use laughter therapy. Laughter therapy is very interesting. I've talked about this a number of times with my clients. Laughter therapy is laughing, literally, for an hour, 2 hours, mostly like around 2 hours a day. So for 2 hours a day, use laughter therapy. And you're thinking, well, how can I just sit around laughing for 2 hours? Find something that makes you laugh. Watch comedy. Watch stand-up. I watch Netflix. I watch The Golden Girls. Whenever I'm using laughter therapy, I use Netflix, The Golden Girls. YouTube has, funny clips and videos. There's a Comedy Central. There's something called Dry Bar Comedy on Facebook. I saw that page and I've been looking at their stuff. There's all amateurs, but they're pretty good. You can just look at anything that's funny, really, any movie that's funny to you, anything like that. And the laughter therapy is just the act of laughing for, an hour or two a day. It raises your vibration. It's very simple. It raises your vibration. And if you're in a depression, the smartest thing to do is raise your vibration. The next one is to meditate. Meditation is not always easy. I get a lot of questions about meditation. People are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, don't even sit there and try to, do what the Zen monks do and, have a singing bowl and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is great, but it's something that you really want to learn more about, understand the culture and things like that. If you want to use meditation to help with depression, to help with anxiety, to help you calm down, just use guided meditations right here on YouTube. Type in what you're experiencing. For example, I would type in meditation for depression, meditation for anxiety, meditation for insecurity, meditation to release fear. If you type in anything like that, a whole lot of meditations are going to come up. There's so many on YouTube. And you can sit and you can listen to, one or two and pick one you want to try and then just use a guided meditation. The most important thing about doing a guided meditation is to have headphones, number one, because you really want to put your headphones on. And number two, you want to be sitting up straight. You can do Indian style, as they call it, when you put your legs folded and cross your legs. Or you can just sit straight, like in a chair like I am now with my legs flat, my feet flat on the floor. And you can meditate like that. You don't have to necessarily do the folded cross leg position, because for some of us, especially me, that is not comfortable. It's never been comfortable. All my life I've tried that and it's never been comfortable. The other one, the last one says use YouTube exercises. YouTube is a wonderful resource and they have exercises. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, I told myself to use the YouTube exercises and I didn't. I just didn't. But they're there, you know? And my doctor told me that exercising is one of the most underused forms of antidepressant. He said most people go to medicine. You know, they go right to medicine. They go right to herbs, oils, crystals, whatever. They go right to something. But he said that for many people, exercising is enough to raise their vibration. And he said that it helps you to release hormones into your system that will make you feel better. You know, there are lots of hormones in your body like dopamine and serotonin and all kinds of, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you all the medical jargon for it, but he told me that there were hormones that are released when you exercise. And if you're depressed, it can really help you feel better. I didn't try it during my own personal depression because I didn't hear about it until afterwards, but it is something that other people have told me that they did try and work for them. So it's something that you can try since YouTube has exercises, Pilates, yoga, all that kind of stuff. So just pick something, type in exercises and just see what comes up. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at our positive comment. This one came from AC Dane. Hey, what's up, AC? AC said, "You are so cute." Haha, thank you. You're so cute. I love you and your show so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You always make me genuinely smile no matter what I'm going through. Have a lovely day, Queen. Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. She left this message on Friday. I really appreciate that. The next message comes from EA. Hey, EA. EA says, "I haven't seen this video yet. But again, this is such a nice idea. Every sign should answer hard-hitting questions on YouTube so other people can understand them and we can learn from each other." That would be wonderful if every sign answered questions about their sign on YouTube. I think that would be really kind of cool. But people would have to keep from being defensive, because one thing I've noticed is that when you start talking about something like that, a lot of people get very defensive. They want to defend their sign. And I'm like, there's no need for that. There's no need at all. If the shoe does not fit, do not wear it. If I say that Aquarius are aloof, for example, and you're not an aloof Aquarius, then don't wear the shoe. You don't have to feel the need. And most Aquarius really don't. I rarely see Aquarius arguing these kind of things. But you don't have to feel the need, no matter what your sun sign is. You don't have to feel the need to fight, you know, and prove that your sun sign isn't that bad. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to prove that to anybody, okay? All right, guys, come back soon because I have a lot more to say. See you later.